Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about Joe Pye.
What are you doing?
Well, I just harvested a whole bunch of Joe Pye Root. You can see it all right down here. And it's really, really muddy. And so I want to do that first wash out here with what's left of our rain barrel water and get it as clean as possible before I bring it in the house to process it and make medicine with it. Aww.
Got all wet, did you?
I did. And muddy. I'm just trying to clean the bucket a bit more before I put it in for a second rinse. So right now I'm kind of being picky about the roots because I have so much. This particular Joe Pye plant had a really, really dense root structure. And so I can be a little bit more choosy about which parts that I want to bring in for medicine. So I'd rather work with something like this than try to figure out this mess. So I'll break off some of like the bigger root pieces here, right? Look at that, that's awesome. And then I'm gonna give them another, as you can see, they're still really dirty and I don't want all that dirt going down the septic. But yeah, if you wanna walk them over and show them where we found it, and where we dug it up, that'd be cool.
Well, then maybe I'll do that. So, I'm going to be in charge of the camera for a little while and in charge of the talking. Mom was digging up this mess for so long. It took a really long time because the root was incredibly bulky. I mean, you saw how much was over there. Mom's still washing it. That's how long it took. So there's a little bit of insider information for you about just how long that took. Yeah, that took a while.
All right, so I want to talk about when you want to harvest roots. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. You ask 100 herbalists how to do something, you're going to get 101 different answers. So this is my take, my understanding, and why I do what I do. So despite the fact that I'm wearing a tank top right now, I'm actually quite cold. It is autumn here. It's October 12th. So I like to harvest my roots in the fall. The reason I do this is because autumn is when plants are sending all of their energy back into the root structures to go dormant for the winter. Now, I know a lot of herbalists like to harvest their roots in the spring, but the way that I think about it, and please, I'd love to have your comments, let me know your experiences, but in the spring, the plant is sending its energy to produce leaves and flowers and buds, and so there's actually not a lot of that vital force in the root structure. So this is the time where the root is going to have the most potent medicine. At least that's what I was taught. And that's what I have noticed when I make medicines with these plants. So you're going to want to scout out your plants beforehand because not all of them leave a distinctive stalk. And I'll make sure that I put some pictures in this video so you know what Joe Pye looks like. It leaves a very distinctive flowering stalk, so it would be easy to find in the autumn, but not all plants do because eventually those leaves and stuff die back. So you want to scout out your locations ahead of time and then just patiently wait for autumn to harvest your roots. It's the next day and normally I like to process my medicine as soon as I've harvested it. But the day got away from me yesterday and thankfully I was harvesting roots. And roots you can actually store in the fridge. I just made sure they were well washed and in a Ziploc bag for up to 24 hours and they'll still be fine to process. But in terms of aerial parts like leaves and flowers, I would not let my stuff sit out and oxidize and all of that. I would make my medicines right away. So I'm going to be making tincture with this. And if you don't have my free tincture guide, it's available in the description below. I highly recommend you snag that if you plan on getting into tincture making. And so I want to talk a little bit about why I would want to bother making tincture from Joe Pye in the first place. So the botanical name for this plant is Eupatorium maculatum. And as a Eupatorium, it is related to bone set. So if you've ever worked with bone set, which is Eupatorium perfoliatum, then you may be familiar with this family of plants. And so this is a really amazing and versatile plant. It is a detoxifier supporting the lymphatic system as well as the kidneys and being a diuretic. I really like having it on hand because it's also one of the few herbs that is a prostatic that actually helps to support the prostate. There's not as many herbs out there that do that. And so whenever I have the opportunity to really stock up in clinic, I do. It also is a febrifuge. It helps with things like rheumatic pain. So this is definitely a plant I encourage you to get to know. We will be covering this in my membership platform. So if that is something that you're ready to really deep dive into herbal medicine, you can get on the wait list for that. I'm going to be opening up the doors to that in about November. So as you can see here, I'm working and chopping up my roots. This blade is called a mezzaluna. Highly recommend you get one. I've got a great video on all of the tools that I think you need for starting your own little home apothecary. Just the ones I think you need. It's really easy to go out and spend tons of money on gadgets and stuff that you don't actually need. And let's be honest, life's expensive enough as it is right now. I'm not going to go out and tell you to buy a $2,000 tincture press when a potato ricer will do. So I'm just going to work fairly efficiently here, and I'm on my own today, so you'll have to just be okay with this camera angle, but just trust that I am chopping this fairly well. And with roots, I always end up tossing stuff on the floor. I mean, that's just part of it, I guess. If you snag my tincture guide, again, in the description below, completely free, it'll talk about the menstruum, which is the medium by which we extract our medicine. So in this case, because I'm making a tincture, I'm using alcohol. For those of you who can't buy overproof alcohol, vodka works great. Really great option for you. But I do recommend you check out small local distilleries. A lot of them will have what they call tincture alcohol available for cheaper. So it's definitely a good option. Just a little bit more chopping. And I'll probably be making at least 2 full liters today because I don't know when I'm going to have the opportunity to find some more Joe Pye. This one just naturalized on my property, and because I know exactly where it was growing, I know that it was a clean source, and I don't have to worry about contaminated waterways or anything like that. All right, feeling pretty good with how well this is chopped. And again, if what you're looking for is ratios and measurements, I'm gonna say it one more time, free tincture guide in the description below. That's where you're gonna get all of your measurements and ratios of exactly how much herb to alcohol you need. Now, some of you might be wondering, because I am making upwards of 2 liters, why am I using a pint size or 500 milliliter jar? If you were wondering that, that's a great question. The reason is because I do not press my tinctures until I need them. And so for me, smaller quantities works better because once they're pressed, I like to use them up within a year. That's because I'm constantly opening and closing that jar and it's oxidizing, which is slowly starting to reduce the potency and therefore quality of my medicine. And so it's a lot more difficult for me to go through an entire liter of tincture than it is 500 mils for someone who's in clinical practice. For you at home, and you've got a small family and the need may not be as great, you may only want to use 250 ml jars. That's up to you. But I am only going to press what I need. And so if I make 4 pint jars of this size, then 3 of them are going to sit in my apothecary cabinet in a nice, cool and dark place, not oxidizing. Whereas if I had to press all 2 liters at that same time, you know, the end product, in my opinion, wouldn't be as potent. So from here, as you can see, I use my wide mouth funnel because I'm messy. Then I'm just going to pour my alcohol. And again, the menstruum that I use and the exact recipe is in my tincture guide. So make sure you grab that. Always, please, friends, remember to do your parchment paper between your lid and your jar to avoid any corroding of the metal. I've had some people say, oh, alcohol doesn't corrode metal. I'm like, okay, but I have seen it happen, and it may not be the alcohol. It might be the combination of chemical constituents that's in the jar. But once that jar starts to corrode and bits of metal are flaking into your medicine, in my opinion, you need to throw it out. And so I would rather err on the side of caution and use a piece of parchment paper. And that was it. I just made Joe Pye tincture.
All right, friends, as always, if you're ever going to be adding a new herb into your life, make sure you do your research. If you're on medication or have any chronic conditions, it's really wise to work with a health practitioner that knows what they're doing when it comes to plants. Please don't ask me how to take this. I literally cannot tell you. There are rules both from my governing health body here in Canada as well as on the Meta platforms and YouTube. So I can't tell you how to take it. I could show you how to make it. And if you decide to become a student of mine and work with me over in Weavers of Plant Wisdom, I can share much, much more there. But for now, you're just going to have to do your own research. Of course, if you have any questions about how to identify Eupatorium, how to harvest the roots, anything like that, or any of its medicinal properties, you of course can leave that in the comments below. Don't forget to snag your free tincture guide, and I'll see you in the next video.